Welcome back. So we're answering your COVID-19 legal questions, and this week we're talking all about that lawsuit that local bars sent to the governor's office. Now joining us virtually is Alex Stanford, local attorney. Alex, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Happy Friday, everybody.
Happy Friday indeed. So we know a judge ruled in favor of the governor for this situation, but let's go ahead and break down the lawsuit. Why did they originally file it in the first place? Let's go over all of that.
All right. So when you have a law, any kind of federal action, state action, whether it's legislative or executory, you can always challenge the constitutionality of it. That is called a federal question suit. You file it in federal court. And what you're doing is you're asking the court to declare it unconstitutional and issue an injunction to stop the enforcement of it. And so it's like a restraining order where you're asking for the court to say, you can't do this anymore. This is an illegal law. So that's what they asked for. They weren't asking for compensatory or monetary damages or punitive relief or anything like that. So they argued that they heavily borrowed from the Attorney General's opinion that was issued a few days ago, and said that this was an overstepping, an overreach of his authority under the Constitution, that it was arbitrary, that it was overbroad. They basically summarized the gist of Mr. Landry's points in his opinion that he issued. I didn't get to actually lay eyes on their pleading, so I can't tell you with any more specificity what they said. But what I can tell you is that was the main thrust of their argument, was that he didn't have the authority to do what he did, and that the way it was implemented was not permissible under the Constitution. I think that would be the argument I would make. I don't know how they worded it, so I can't really give you any more feedback than that. Now, I can tell you what the state argued was that they argued categorically that this is an emergency condition, like whether it's a war or a pandemic. There are certain circumstances that trigger increased executive power because the legislative process is slow. You got to write a bill, you got to put it to committee, you got to submit it to the floor for debate, yada, yada, yada. So whenever you have an emergency, a declaration allow the governor to, or the president, in the federal case, to have a little bit more leeway to say, this is what we got to do. We have to respond and react to the situation as the problem is. And so they said, under these increased powers, everything he did was intended to save lives and, protect the public from getting sick so that we can minimize the overall damage to the economy, relations back to the judge ruled in there saying that threat to life was a compelling state interest, and that in the past, other federal courts have shown a lot of judicial deference to executive action in response to a pandemic. So whenever you have a federal precedent somewhere else, if it comes down from the Supreme Court, why Louisiana doesn't really have stare decisis, which is a doctrine where we have to abide by what previous courts have done. We have a doctrine called jurisprudence constant, which just means that you give a lot of leeway and weight to what other courts do, but it's not technically binding. And so they argued, or the judge decided, that because the Supreme Court has said we're going to give governors a lot of leeway in responding to pandemic, she didn't want to rock the boat. So she said, look, that's what he's doing. Measures are preventing spikes, and so we're going to go along with it. That's play by play of what happened. This is not the only one. This may have been the first hearing that was had, but it's not going to be the last. I know I've been by a number of bar owners. They want to also file injunctions. I know there have been 2 other suits filed. Those are going to be set for hearing in a couple of weeks. So we really don't know how this is going to shake up. There's also the possibility that the plaintiffs in this case will appeal. We don't know what's going to happen there. My own opinion, reading everything, is that there's been a little bit of legal prestidigitation going on in the judge's ruling, because it looks like they shifted from having the deaths be the state interest to just infection rates. Because if you look at statistics, yes, we're having infection spikes and we're having a lot of people go to the hospital, but if you look at the number of mortalities, the number of deaths from it, those have consistently gone down to the point
Alex,
where
we're actually running out of time real fast, so I'm going to stop you there, but we'll pick this up Probably next week, I'm sure. So guys, if you want to learn more about the breakdown of this lawsuit, visit our website, kadn.com. Let's send it on over to Corey.